I used to see and hear about these kind of things and experiences happening to other kids, other parents, and seeing pictures of their abusers and think to myself, I will never allow this to happen to my baby. He is safe and loved. Until one day, I became a statistic. My daughter became a statistic, a number on a chart somewhere, a victim. And we joined a club I never wanted to join. Our entire world crashed that day with one tiny sentence from my 3-year-old's mouth as she sat on my lap holding on to me. Up until that day, prior to the trauma, my daughter was your typical toddler.
And we are about to watch the parole hearing of really the most dangerous, one who put himself in the position to take care of these little children. He put himself there so that he can have access. After being caught, he was sentenced to just 7 years in prison, and he's actually up for parole 11 months after his sentencing date, if you can imagine. I'll unpack it with the details at the end.
This hearing is being conducted in consideration of the parole application for Joshua Vasquez, 432099. He is serving a sentence of 25 years, executed suspended after serving 7 years, followed by 35 years probation for sexual assault. Second, victim less than 16 years old, actor is the guardian. Sexual assault third, threat of force and illegal contact, victim less than 13 years old. He is to remain on the sex offender registry for life. As of today, records reflect a parole eligibility date of October 12th, 2023. There is victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan for the offender. It has been reviewed and shows he has completed the short track sex offender program and he's currently participating in crime. Utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system, the offender's overall score falls within the low range of risk for recidivism. Utilizing the static 99R, the offender's overall score for sexual offense recidivism falls within the low to moderate range. Mr. Vasquez, this is your opportunity to express to the board why you believe you should be granted parole. You may begin.
So, over the past 5 years, can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
So, over the past 5 years, it's been all about me just working on myself and trying to be a better person, to say the least. It's every day that's what I am just focused on, and basically whether it's work, I've had multiple jobs over my incarceration time. I have participated in school. I graduated from an automotive technician program, and I even participated in a barber program, but I did not complete that because I was transferred from the facility that has that. But those things they help me in my reintegrating into the community, just tools in my toolbox to help me find work, short and long term, to set me up for success. But I know that my work ethic is not what is at question here. I believe between it here and prior to that, I was enlisted in the military, and I believe that more speaks to my work ethic than anything. But it's been more about my self-development and my own self-evaluation of myself and why I'm truly here, and since it all started before I was even arrested, after I found out that there were criminal charges, it was a wake-up call. Never mind actually coming to prison. It takes things to a whole new level. I throughout my time working on programs, as was mentioned, I took the sex offender program, and there we learn about, being aware of risk factors. You learn what those potentially could be, depending on if you have those or not, and what they could be and how to address them, as well as just learning about victim impact, potential, the repercussions of these types of crimes. And just being in that environment, being in such a program, never mind being in the program, going to that program every time that they call it, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for me. And they call the program and people know exactly what you're doing and know exactly where you're going, and people look at you a certain way. Not that I particularly care what people think in here, but in general, knowing how people are going to look at me because of this crime and how I'm perceived, I put that on myself. It's just, it's embarrassing. I'm embarrassed for why I am here. And I understand how bad it is. I'm disgusted with myself, and this whole time it's just I've had to continue addressing all the reasons why I am here. I also, speaking of programs, I was mentioned I was in the Prime program. That's just the program. It's a safe space. It's a place for not just younger people, but just inmates in general who just want to get their life back on track. That's a good. You get a lot of positive reinforcement in that group, and it's definitely been helpful in my time here. Now, you will have noticed if you see my OAP, I have not completed voices. Unfortunately, the facilitator for voices in this facility is not, it is no longer here. They don't have a facilitator for it. And I know I'm on the list. I don't know where on the list I am. I just wanted to put it out there because I know that program is important. I don't know if they have such programs in outside, but if there were such a program that I could take out there, I would certainly do that. And even if it had to come out of my own pocket, then I would do that because I don't want there to be any reason to make you think that I am not ready to be out in society. This is very taxing. A half a decade. I asked any of you, are you the same person you were 5 years ago? Because I'm not. That person, I hardly recognize. That person, it's me. I did this crime. No doubt about it. It's horrible, and I think about it a lot. I think about it all the time, and it weighs on me. But I've been addressing it. The most important thing that I've been doing while I'm here, there's the programs, they help. Working school, it helps, but it's been about addressing why I'm here in the first place. And it's my I have mental problems, and I can't explain them, but the crime I'm here for it's not something that a normal person does. Someone who's mentally healthy, or it is a problem I know I've had my whole life. It's something that I tried to ignore and I tried to bury it and kind of just downplay it because I always had these inappropriate thoughts. The best way that I can explain it, it's like we all have these walls in our minds, metaphorically speaking, that stop us from like thinking things that normal people don't, inappropriate things. And for whatever reason, my whole life, that wall, metaphorically speaking, is not there. And I didn't take it seriously. I thought, it would never come to a situation as serious as this. It's not something that I ever seeked out to do. It was a spur of the moment. It was poor judgment, and it's not truly who I am in my heart. I'm disgusted with myself. To be clear, I've had to, this wall that I speak of, I've had to kind of build the wall up myself in my mind, because recognizing how serious these crimes are and like how the impact of this crime, I can't imagine to the fullest extent the damage I've done, but I know I have. And this wall, it's these inappropriate thoughts, I don't entertain them. That's what the wall is. These thoughts, they're there, and they come and they go. Something may trigger them, but I don't entertain them as I would when I was younger, because it's that is a risk factor. I know for a fact that I cannot think these thoughts because although I don't believe I would ever do something again because of the weight of my experience past 5 years, I have everything in my power to make sure that I'm setting myself up for success and that I am not a threat to society because I am not. To be clear, I have my problems and they're serious, but I am not a predator. I am not somebody who has impulse control. I am not an addict. I have self-control. I am here because I exercised bad judgment and I was ignorant and I didn't think of my victims before I did what I did. All my victims, the victim, the child, the family of my victim, and my own family for that matter. None of them deserve the situation that I put them in the first place. And I've apologized before. It wasn't a matter of asking for forgiveness. I spoke this in court during my sentencing. It's more of just showing that I didn't take pleasure in what I did. I didn't get anything out of it. It was pointless, and it was the worst thing I've ever done, and that's gonna stay with me for the rest of my life. It stays with me in here. The weight of that, I carry that. I'm ashamed, and I dishonored my family and that uniform that I wore, being enlisted in the military. I dishonored, and it's an embarrassment. That's just how I feel, and the best that I can do is just move forward, go home, and just do the right thing. That's it. All I can do.
Okay, thank you for your statement, Mr. Vasquez. We do have questions for you. When we're done with our
Yes, ma'am.
questions, we'll turn the hearing over to the Office of Victim Services for input. And then we'll deliberate and give you our decision here today.
Yes,
We'll
ma'am.
begin the questioning with my colleague, Ms. Page.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Vasquez, I appreciate your opening statement. I also appreciate the remorse that you shared with us today. And I heard you talk a lot about the impact that this has had on you, but I really didn't hear you speak too much about the impact that your actions had on the victim. And I'm particularly interested in that because in most of the documents that we've read, you really denied doing this to this victim. So now here today, you're saying that you did do something to her. Is that correct?
Ma'am, I think about the impact of my victim a lot. It's a matter of whether or not excuse me. I can't see. I know for a fact that damage has been done. I heard the statements that were made by the victim and by her family. I know for a fact that I caused pain. I may not see it, but I know it's there, and I can't imagine it. Yes, I acknowledge I did do this. I never denied.
Yeah, you did. You really did deny it.
How
You
did I
made
deny?
excuses. You said that she walked in on you while you were using the bathroom, and that's how she put the two together. You said it was a pee-pee, and then, you said you were changing her and you wiped it too hard, and your pants were unzipped from using the bathroom, and your penis came out. Like, it was excuse after excuse in every single report that I reviewed. And now today you're sitting here and you're saying, I did something to her. We don't know what you did. Well, according to the documents, we know what you did, but
Yes, so this specifically, you're referring to the police reports, correct?
I'm referring to the PSI. I'm referring to your sex offender evaluation. I'm referring to your interview with the parole officer in preparation for today's hearing. And I'm referring to your evaluation that you received after you completed the sex offender treatment.
Because to make it clear, I did go through a long period of denial, and I kind of tried to just push away and just forget about what happened that day. And, you know, I try
Mr.
to,
Vasquez, I can appreciate that, but the question is very, very simple. Do you admit here today that you sexually assaulted this child? That's a yes or a no question.
yes, ma'am, I did.
And does your family know that you admit now to what you did to this victim?
I want everybody to know that I admit that I did do it.
Because I have to be
No
honest.
excuses.
Thank you. You were minimized it, like even in a report from your sex offender treatment, you say, oh, it wasn't as bad as it seems. And I'm just not understanding where that comes from. This girl was so young. She couldn't really know what these things were, you know, but she referred to your penis as when she saw the dog peeing and said the dog has the same thing as you have. How would a child even know that or be able to make that connection without having experienced what she did?
I just say anything I say speculation, but it is my fault. I'm the reason why that she's making those statements. I don't know exactly how she perceived the event, but I did it. I did, and I'm not in denial.
Wait, the way she perceived what event? What did you do? Well, I'm not understanding. Are you still now trying to minimize what you did to her?
No, ma'am. I apologize if you've misperceived. I'm not denying or downplaying it. I tried to downplay it for myself. That's why I said those things. I just trying to make myself feel better about what I did. It is not my intention. So
I
it
want
is
you
not
to
my.
stop talking about you. You said today that you accept that you did sexually assault this victim.
Yes.
And now that you're admitting that you did sexually assault her, I know you haven't participated in the Voices program, and I'm not concerned about how this impacted you. I know you're in prison and you think about it all the time, all that stuff. But what about her? What about the long-term effects that this is going to have on this child who's very young now? But I'm even at 23 or 33. What do you think the impact of your actions is going to have on this victim? And what about her parents?
Yes, absolutely. I heard the pain in the statement that her mother made during sentencing. And as much as it's the pain, it's probably going to be, I'm not fully understanding. I just know that this is something that is most likely going to affect all my victims for the rest of their lives. I'm aware of that. And I feel powerless. I feel powerless because they don't deserve that.
Right.
That's on me.
I appreciate that. And I really did not appreciate the statement about us having the loads in our mind where our mind wanders off to places that they really shouldn't. And how you said he was able to practice self-control is what you said, and to avoid your ever doing this again. And my question to you is how weren't you able to prevent that from happening before this if you had so much self-control?
It is not a matter of, it was decision making and judgment. I was ignorant and I didn't think of what were the repercussions of my actions. That is the difference. And when you look at the impact on everybody, seeing how people are affected by these things, that is what changes things. Whether it's my incarceration or hearing the damage that's been done, the pain, the emotional pain and otherwise that's been caused, that is what's eye-opening, because the metaphor that I used, the wall, that is just my best explanation of what's wrong with me. I don't have a full understanding of it. This is why I want help, and I've said that before, and I intend to seek that.
Yeah, I'm glad now at least that you're accepting that you are admitting that you do have those thoughts so that you can get the help that you need. I'm also happy that you're now accepting responsibility, even though I haven't heard you really accept it. I think you're skirting around it, to be honest, but I'm happy to hear that you're at least admitting I did something wrong to this victim. And there was something else that you said that it just completely escaped me. Those thoughts that you have, by the way, they're like it's called deviant sexual behaviors, kind of those thoughts. So that that at least you know that exists, and hopefully you'll be able to address that when you are in treatment out in the kids, because you have a long way to go. And 35 years of probation is not going to be easy, and being a sex offender for the rest of your life, and you're very young, so you have a long road ahead of you. And I just hope that you understand that honesty is in your best interest, because the more open that you are about what you've done, the more you can accept it, the less guilty you feel, and all that stuff. I mean, you have to talk about it and talk through it, because you're going to have to share this with your intimate partner, your girlfriends, your wife, it's a part of your life now forever. So I am going to pass the torch on over to my chair, because I did have another question. I just don't remember.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Mr. Vasquez, can you please share what tools you gained from the short track program that will help you address the inappropriate thoughts that you mentioned?
So it's a matter of not entertaining the thoughts, not searching for, stuff online, or it's just not thinking about them. What I do, and what that program has helped me, when these thoughts come to my mind, I shut them down immediately. I don't even entertain them, never mind think about acting on them. That is the most important thing to me, not reoffending and not coming back. In the opening statement that was made, it said that I am at low to moderate risk of reoffending, and I am more than motivated to do that, because nobody else should ever go through what I did. The work that I had to in that program, these thoughts, it's like my mind and my heart are in two separate, there's a disconnect. And my heart it feels the pain, and it knows that what I did was wrong. That is why these thoughts, I don't entertain them. When they come through, I shut them down and they go away. What triggers them. I don't linger in these thoughts. Taking control is what is most important. So I don't ever find myself in a situation like this again, or put anybody through what I have again.
Okay. What types of things were you searching for on the internet, sir?
What I would search for. So to be clear, I never actually searched for anything related to this crime. That I would view pornography, but nothing that is illegal, to be clear.
Okay. Can you tell us a little more about the Prime program? What do you do in the Prime program?
Yeah, so we have this program typically 3 days a week. And, there's people of all different crimes in there. But on a day-to-day basis, this is just kind of supposed to be a safe space. The individuals in this program, most of us are all like-minded in how we want to, seeing where we are and how to set ourselves up, for reintegrating into society. You know, we can speak out comfortably about problems we may be having, whether it's in here or stuff out there. It's just an opportunity for more self-development. And I've met a lot of decent people in there who genuinely do want to better
Okay, so
themselves.
I just want to make sure I understand. So is it a support group
Essentially, yes.
that meets 3 times a week? Is that what you said, 3 times a week? Okay, for
Correct.
how long? Is it an hour?
It varies, could be an hour, hour and a half, but yes,
Okay.
essentially.
How many people are in the group?
It varies because people are always leaving and coming in. I want to say maybe 24 at this point.
Okay. And is there a facilitator?
Yes.
Okay, so are there specific topics discussed at every session, or is it just an open forum?
There are mentors because it is mainly also a support group for youth, although the
Okay.
mentors they benefit from it too, but they're there for us. And generally, whether it's them or the man who runs the group, he or the mentors come up with different topics, and sometimes the topics don't necessarily apply to every single individual, but it also, like, for example, if we're talking about somebody who has drug addiction, it may not apply to me or other people, but it does apply to some people, and we can help talk that person through their issues and what their struggles are and how they can overcome those problems.
All right, thank you for answering my questions. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Ms. Chance.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Mr. Vasquez, I wanted to go back to something you said in your opening statement. You said you enlisted in the Army Reserves.
Correct.
And you completed 6 months of training.
Yes, ma'am.
As part of that, did you do a mental health evaluation? It's just a yes or no.
Yes.
And I asked that question because part of what you say the reason for committing the offense is because you felt your mental health played a role in what happened.
Yes, ma'am.
So I also read the short-term sex offender discharge summary. And in it, you identify some external risk factors as your interaction with someone younger than yourself and feeling loneliness and desire for physical connection with someone. How do you address those 2 areas when you're back in the community?
I lean on the people that I do have in my life when it comes to loneliness. You know, I have, whether or not you grant me parole when I am released, whenever that may be, I have the support of my family. My family, despite putting them through this hell that I have, they are still supporting me. I have a sponsor who my father is willing to help me get back up on my feet. When I go home, I'm going to a stable environment, and just being with my family or close friends of mine, good people, surrounding myself with those type of people, that helps with loneliness. And younger people, as far as like a risk factor that I stated that was a concern, is meeting somebody younger and not actually being aware of their age. You know, because sometimes people look a little older and they may carry themselves and talk in a way that makes them seem older than they are. So that is just something that sometimes comes to my mind and I worry about. And I know, just thinking about it, how I work around that if I meet somebody and I suspect that they are younger, I mean, there's easy ways around that. You check somebody's ID. If they're with somebody, you ask them how old they are. I mean, if there's any doubt about somebody's age, I'm just gonna just play it safe, be smart, and just walk away from that. I have no interest in doing harm to anybody or risking
Yeah,
freedom.
so, okay, so Mr. Vasquez, the concern that I have there is, early on, before you were actually charged, you had an opportunity to share what you did with your father, but you didn't. Do you now think that you are equipped, that since you're going to live with him, that you will be able to, when you have these feelings, that you'll be able to discuss it with him now?
Yes, it is a lot simpler because the severity of these mental health problems, it's not, it's difficult to talk about, but it's out there now. And I cannot hide it and I can't deny it. So it makes it that much easier for me to talk with my father or my mother or anybody that I'm close to, or if I'm seeing professional help, to them as well. I'm more than willing to do that. And I feel it may be uncomfortable. Those conversations may be uncomfortable and not something that I or that other person may want to have, but if they're necessary, then they have to be had.
So it is your intention to seek professional help?
Yeah, that has been my plan since day one.
I didn't hear you say anything today about that, so that's why I'm asking, because it's an area of concern for me.
Yes, no, I'm pretty sure before I did say that I know I need help. I didn't specify that I want and that I plan to seek help, but yes, I do intend to seek professional help.
Okay. So were you able to think about, when you first acknowledged that you had some mental health, did you make a connection to the actual act that you committed?
I'm sorry, could you rephrase that?
So when you first said you thought you had a mental health problem, and that's the reason why you committed the offense. So once you completed the short-term sex offender program, and you were participating in the crime program where you say you get support, were you
Right.
able to actually admit and discuss that? So that, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yes, there are certain individuals that I trust. There's very few people you can really trust in here, but that is not something that I bring up out of solely because of my own safety. That is even more reason why I have said that I intend to seek professional help out there, because although it's been all on me to work on myself and address these things, I don't have a true outlet in here to address these things and get them out.
All right, well, thank you for answering my questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Vasquez, at this time, we're going to turn the hearing over to the Office of Victim Services. We just ask that you don't interrupt. You can listen. Ms. Hamlet-Williams, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, panel, for having me. I do have the parents of the victim who would like to address you today, and I will be calling the mother of the victim first. One moment. You may begin with your statement.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm going to try to get through this without crying. It's going to be very hard. Okay, so living in the before. I did all the right things. I made sure my daughter was happy and healthy and safe, and surrounded her with people and places I thought were safe and wanted the same for her. In my false sense of reality, I used to see and hear about these kind of things and experiences happening to other kids, other parents, and seeing pictures of their abusers and think to myself, I will never allow this to happen to my baby. He is safe and loved. Until one day, I became a statistic. My daughter became a statistic, a number on a chart somewhere, a victim, and we joined a club I never wanted to join. Our entire world crashed that day with one tiny sentence from my 3-year-old's mouth as she sat on my lap holding on to me. Up until that day, prior to the trauma, my daughter was your typical toddler. Since then, we've had to endure struggles as a family, doing the best we can to support her and navigate this path to ensure her happiness and health and a bright future. My girl is smart, beautiful, independent, funny, big-hearted soul who loves to dance and sing and loves her mama's snuggles. Throughout the years since this happened, she has had to deal with different stages of therapy, social workers, testing, evaluations, special programs, outbursts, relationship struggles, special education for emotional support, and plenty of judgment from those who do not understand what she has been through in her short time. I myself am in therapy, struggling day to day with the impact of this magnitude only a parent who has lived it can understand. The experiences we have had to overcome these last 5 years are something I would never wish on another mother, child, parent, or anyone for that matter. The guilt I feel daily as a mother, putting my child in a place I thought was safe, only to live the complete opposite, will haunt me forever. It will forevermore change my environments, my friendships, my trust in others. I now live outside that false sense of reality, with fear and heightened sense of security, and that will never change. This was changed by one man and his actions to my then 3-year-old child. She was with someone I thought I could trust, who put their trust in him. Prior to this happening, he never gave any inclination of his behavior, his thoughts, and actions that he intended to do with my daughter. He posed as a quiet, regular, respectful, honorable person living his life in the military, but putting on a mask for everybody, leaving all those around him unaware of his true innermost thoughts. This leaves it hard for me to believe any actions in the short time he's been incarcerated, while in a structured environment with no children around him, are indeed true or just another show. There is no changing what happened. I have no control over the situation that brought us here today. I only have my voice to stand up for those who do not have a voice just yet, and I hope that I am heard. I hope whoever does have power over the outcome of today's proceedings and any further proceedings that they will take in consideration to keep Mr. Vasquez in for as much time as possible, serving his 7 years as the judge ordered to do this, so this can never, hopefully, ever happen again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your statement. Please continue to view. And now I'll contact the father of the victim. One moment. You may begin with your statement.
I just wanted to say that I don't think parole is warranted in this case for this offender, considering the damage he's caused my family and the potential damage he may cause other families in the future. Considering the gravity of his crimes, I don't think there is any redemption. I don't feel that his sentence is nearly long enough, and to give him parole to let him loose on the streets to hurt another family and another young child in the way he hurt mine, I don't think that should happen at all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if you can mute on your end.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you, panel.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Hamlet-Williams. Okay, Mr. Vasquez, at this time, the panel will enter into deliberation. You can listen to our discussion and we'll come back to you shortly with our decision. Ms. Page.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the victims taking out time from their day to provide input from what they've experienced and lost as a result of this conviction. is crying for their innocent baby. I appreciate Mr. Vasquez admitting today that he did sexually assault this victim, and I also appreciated his desire to want to change and to learn other ways of preventing this from happening in the future so that he can avoid ever doing this again. I know he's participated in programs. I understand that he has not received any disciplinary infraction since he's been there. He rates out at the low risk to recidivate, and does not have any other criminal history. So, I mean, honestly, I think that he really does fit the criteria for what the things that we would like to see for individuals who are coming before us requesting discretionary parole in terms of programming and behavior in the facility and that sort of thing. However, I could not support Mr. Vasquez's request for discretionary parole today for the very reasons that the victims have mentioned, the egregiousness of this offense and the impact that it's had on them as a family. So that my vote would be to deny.
Okay. Well, I certainly appreciate the victim's family coming forward to speak today. You know, he was 19 at the time of his offense, no criminal history. Of course, very concerning criminal behavior, and has damaged a victim and their family for a lifetime. He rates out low to moderate, as he stated, and otherwise low in our risk assessments for recidivism. He's taken an appropriate program to address his problem sexual behavior. And I do hear that he's gained from the programs. I do hear some insight, some growth, acceptance for sure. And, you know, I would imagine that was hard for a 19-year-old to do, but happy to hear that now. And I think he would benefit from further treatment in the community to make sure that this doesn't happen in the future. He does have 35 years of probation. But I believe given his low risk and the fact that he's done everything that he can while he's incarcerated and stayed out of trouble too, and we know that's hard to do with the stigma of being labeled a sex offender, I would support a grant of parole so that he could get out and continue with more intensive treatment in the community. Ms. Chance?
So I agree with what both you and Mrs. Spade said in terms of, you know, the offender finally today acknowledging that he did commit the offense. And I guess what I appreciated was the fact that when he talked about being in the crime program, despite knowing that it's a support group for young people, that he still was able to express that he still sort of kept some things back because of the fact of the trust issue. And I read the short-term discharge summary, and, you know, he did identify his inappropriate thoughts and shut down when they come to his mind. I don't know how he's going to do that. So that was a gray area for me. But just the fact that he is acknowledging what he did, that was wrong. I also appreciate both parents of the young victim who came on the phone and talked about, you know, the mother saying how she struggled today because she thought that her young daughter was in a trusting and safe environment. But obviously, that did not happen. And so both parents are not in favor. And so I do admit that he does need to be in the community. For me, I'm going to also vote in favor of the victim and deny due to the nature and circumstances and the injury and impact to the victim and victim's family.
For the same reasons?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, in the matter of Joshua Vasquez, MA number 432099, there's a motion to deny parole for the following reasons: nature and circumstance of your offenses and the injury and impact to the victim and the victim's family. All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm opposed. It's a majority decision. Your parole has been denied. You do have 35 years of probation, so continue to work on yourself, sir, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Wish you the best.
This concludes the full hearing for Joshua Vasquez, 432099.
Let's just be clear about one thing here, because I don't know if it's getting just lost in this parole board or this discussion or through his what's it called, gaslighting. Let's remember that this is a cockroach, this is a monster who, you know what, yeah, his brain is wired differently. He's attracted to little, whether, you know, maybe but he is also the same person that made sure that he would have a job, putting him in the position of wiping babies' diapers, of changing their diapers. He made sure that he got that job. He made sure that he put himself as the fox in the henhouse. That was his doing. Let's not forget that. And I don't know how it's so clear that this person is just the biggest risk to society. He will always desire this. This is his obsession. Someone who obsesses it to the point that they get a job where they will have access to their prey. Do you really think that this person is safe and fit to be in society? How is it that he is given a low to moderate risk score on the low side for reoffending? Make that make sense. And we'll go over the statewide collaborative static 99 and how they come up with those conclusions. It's insane. This needs to stop. I do believe that one day someone who has reach is gonna, you know, tweet about it or X about it or whatever. There's gonna be one day people are gonna wake up and say, wait a minute, what? This is the 10-point questionnaire that we're using as a statewide collaborative algorithm to determine whether someone like this is a risk or not? Are you nuts? How is it possible that the chair of the board wanted to release him early? And let me share with you her experience, because she's actually super qualified, so qualified to the extent that it raises alarm bells in my mind. Ms. Zaccanini, this is the one who wanted to release him. She's the chairperson, the highest ranked on the board, the longest one serving board member. She worked as an investigative social worker and supervisor with the Department of Children and Families, DCF, in Torrington, Connecticut. Her primary focus was the protection of Connecticut's children. She was responsible for providing families with the necessary services and programs to maintain the family unit, to provide the tools and successful reunification of families when possible. In her role as the investigative social worker, she was the first to respond to allegations of child abuse, neglect, and ultimately made the determination, it was her job to make the determination whether a child was at risk of harm and whether services were necessary for a family. This is the woman, the job who she's the one that dissented. She's the one that said, let him back into the public early. These are the people that are placed in charge, handpicked by the governor to protect the children in the community that they govern. Make it make sense. This person will forever be a risk. If you take a healthy heterosexual male and you say, look, man, let's pretend that we live in this weird society that it's illegal for him to have any relationships with women his age. And so you lock him up. Let's pretend it was like a George Orwell's novel, 1984, right? If that book's a classic, and it's that type of dystopia. And so people are locked up, and then they're at their parole hearing. They say, you have to promise that you will not offend again. You will not go after any female. Now, you're going to say what you have to say because you want to get paroled. And you may even try to stay out of prison with your 30 years probation because you don't want to go back to prison. But 6 months pass, a year pass, 2 years pass, 3 years pass. You have your urges. It's what you're into. You're not, your mind is warped. You've done it already. You actually justify it in some ways. And eventually you get access to it again and you do it because to you, this is normal. This is what you want. The idea that you think that you can release, and I hope that I'm not going, out there with these analogies, but to me, it's the idea that you cannot accept the fact that here is a predator, that this is something that he obsesses about, dreams about, thinks about, will always be this way because his mind is wired that way and has already placed himself in the position to stalk his prey and has fulfilled those fantasies. And throughout this parole hearing shows zero accountability, zero awareness, zero remorse. At the beginning of the parole hearing, I'm waiting for him to express any amount of at least fake it. There was nothing. And then you have the judge on top of it, right? He gets 3 counts. It's the assault of victim under 16 while he's a guardian, which is insane that the legislation says that you should write under 16 when she's 3 years old. That was a 5-year jail sentence, by the way, suspended after serving 2. The count for a threat of force under 16 was a 10-year sentence, twice the sentence for the threat of force. Count 3 for the illegal contact with the victim, again, which is less than a count 1, which was full-on assault. That was 20 years. Richard pointed this out in the sentencing. Why a judge would do that, I have no idea. But now all of this, it's all suspended, so he's only serving 7 years. His maximum release date is 2026, 7/25/2026. He was only sentenced October 12, 2023, so he has time served. But if you can imagine, as far as the victims are concerned, it was less than a year ago that they would have sat in that courtroom as the judge handed down the sentence. Less than a year after they would have made a victim impact statement, they'd be showing up to a parole hearing. That's insane. Why does it feel this way for us sheeple, but it doesn't feel this way for the system? It's madness. You heard the victims speak so succinctly. You heard the mother state out just something that everyone needs to hear, just being another statistic. Speaking more words of wisdom in one victim impact statement than you might hear in 1,000 hours of parole hearings from this board or from any victim or whatever. She said, I want my voice to be heard, and this platform is going to make sure that it is. God, I'm pissed off. This stuff just pisses me off because it's just anyone with like common sense just sees how insane it is. He's going to be released in 2 years. Why? Why? If he had stolen a car, I mean, there are things that he might have gotten more time for. Remember, he didn't just do it. He put himself in this situation to do it. It says he had 2 victims. I think we only heard from one. I think they were the same parents for the same victim, but he had 2. He put himself in the position to change diapers. He was a guardian figure. Now let's go over this 10-point questionnaire. This brilliant statewide, mind you. All the states decided to collaborate on this. These are the people that are in charge of us. How much effort did they put into understanding this to realize, wait a minute, no. I mean, how is there anything in this country that we can get a statewide to collaborate on? It's going to be this. Look at this. This is going to freak you out. It's going to freak you out. So here's the 10-point questionnaire. Go. This is what you fill out to determine your risk. This is what is being used as the statewide collaborative form on whether or not, which will have a major factor on whether or not they should release child predators back into the streets. So it starts with age. And now what you want the lowest score possible. So you can get a negative score of 3 to 1. That would make you a low risk, okay? Moderate to low would give you a 2 or a 3. They said he had a low to moderate, which I don't understand. It must just be low because, oh no, moderate low. Okay, so he had a 2 or a 3. So if you are 60 or older, you actually get negative 3 points. So you're like, oof, right out of the gun, you're pretty good to be a low risk because it's going to be hard to get 4 points back, which anyone with common sense knows that's insane. I mean, we all know that that's just absolute madness. You can be, we've seen, how many parole hearings have we seen of people way above the age of 60 that are doing just the most monstrous things? It doesn't take any experience. It's just this is okay. But so because of his age, he has a score of a 1 because he's 18 to 35. So he's a higher risk than someone who's 60 by a long shot. Okay, that makes sense. That makes a ton of sense. Have you ever lived with a lover for at least 2 years? Again, think about how insane this question is because how many of these victims live with the lover to get access to their victim? I mean, it's insane. Now, if he had said yes, he wouldn't get a point. If he had said no, he'd get a 1 point. I don't know the answer, what he said to this, but he's at 1 point now. So let's come back to this. Was it index non-sexual violence, any convictions? His answer was no because he had no record. Prior, not no, so he's still at 1 or maybe 2 because he's 0-0. Prior sex offenses is no, so he gets a 0. Can you imagine? Prior sentencing dates, no. Look how many times they waste these questions. Prior. They're going to ask another prior. Any convictions for non-contact? No. Any unrelated victims? Any unrelated victims? I don't even know what this is supposed to mean. Yes. Unrelated? Any stranger victims? So I guess it's how he decides to define whether that's a stranger or not. I guess because it's someone under no. So it's a 0. Any male victims? Apparently, if you have a male victim, your score is higher. So he's a 0. So he is, I mean, he had to have scored just, I think, a 2 or 1. So even a 3, he still would have been a moderate low. But that's how they got his score. And then they have here, which is the risk statements. So for some reason, let's say so it's moderate low. and he scored a 3. They believe offenders with the same score from routine samples have been found to recidivate at 0.7 to 2.0 after 5 years. Think about how they came up with this analysis. I would love to know, and we, I think, have a duty to demand what data they use to come up with this, how they define a routine sample. What is that defined by? And then exactly, so how big was their bucket? They took 1,000 people, ranked at this score, they let them out for 5 years, they watched them, and they said just 2% offended. And what you're telling me is that this, it boggles the mind. It's insane. There's just no chance. There's just no chance that this data is a solid data set to use. It's, you know, you can't have a 10-point questionnaire that is so clearly flawed determining a risk score like this. How is it possible, let's put it this way, that there's not a question in that questionnaire that says, was this person there's no mention of CP. Did this person have it? No. There's no mention of the victim's age. No. There's no mention of how long they did it, how many years. There's nothing. There's nothing in there. You cannot categorize broadly with a giant brush and just say woof, and now we're going to use this across. I mean, I know I'm preaching to the choir. I think anyone with common sense, and I mean, unless you have a PhD, and then I know you probably will be saying, guys, you just don't understand. You're not smart enough to understand how this works. You're just sheeple. Just let us do our jobs. I feel I'm preaching now. But I'm pissed off. I watch this stuff and I get so fired up by how insane it is, how dumb it is, how dangerous. I don't know the way she perceived the event. You don't know the way the 3-year-old perceived the event. Mm-hmm. He then talks about the risk. You know, if I don't know someone's age, I would just walk away. And it's like, you're not into 11-year-olds. You're not into 12. You're not into 15. No, you're into toddlers. What are you even saying? Get out of here. And they're releasing him in 2 years. But there you have it. You can't make it up. And with that, I'll let you go.
This leaves it hard for me to believe any actions in the short time he's been incarcerated, while in a structured environment with no children around him, are indeed true or just another show. There is no changing what happened. I have no control over the situation that brought us here today. I only have my voice to stand up for those who do not have a voice just yet, and I hope that I am heard. I hope whoever does have power over the outcome of today's proceedings and any further proceedings that they will take in consideration to keep Mr. Vasquez in for as much time as possible, serving his 7 years as the judge ordered to do this, so this could never, hopefully, ever happen again. Thank you.